Hello everybody, James9532 here. Today, taking a look at Aurther. Yes, Aurther. So, Aurther was based off the IVET 2MT tank engine. And I tried to replicate that as best as I could with this model. I think I did an okay enough job. That makes me sound like I hate this model. I actually really enjoyed making it. Let's start with that. So, the first thing I did was I took normal strips of cardboard and then glued them to the side of the Trackmaster 2 chassis. Probably a Thomas chassis. Yeah, I don't remember, really. I just keep these empty chassis because the shells have either been butchered or repurposed. Yeah. So, I glued these pieces here and this piece down to the chassis, which is something I don't do normally, because a lot of the engines, I try to make the shell removable, just in case I do ever need to redo the chassis, or I don't like it, or I want to redo the shell, but don't want to impact how it looks on the chassis, then I try to make it removable. But with Aurther, that was sort of impossible. If my camera will bother to focus, please, thank you. Yeah, because I couldn't figure out a way to have this complex of a shape in sit on the shell and not be interfered with the movement of the wheels or anything. 'Cause you see he rolls very nicely. I would demonstrate on the track, but oh, there we go. Yeah, he rolls rather good. He'd be good to pull along the string, and he would look good doing that. So, yeah. So I just figured, okay, we'll just glue it to the chassis and go from there. So I did, and now Aurther cannot be removed from his chassis, unless I want to totally butcher him. I don't. So, yeah. After I did that, I formed the rest of the footplate, specifically the front and back buffer beam, which I did just glue half a coupling on, just because I don't think no coupling is that long, okay? And I didn't want to make an extension to it, so I just we'll just take one of the cut in half ones from an old custom and glue it on here. Yeah, that's what I did for the coupling. After I did that, I decided to do the boiler. And since the footplate was already glued to the chassis, I figured, okay, we'll use that to our advantage. And I glued the boiler to it too. If I can find a good one here we go. Here's a work in progress chassis. I glued the boiler right along here, just because these are good spots for it. Of course, I had to rip out this front part, because Aurther's boiler isn't thick enough. If you'll see, you can see these little bits here. You can see that Aurther's boiler would be too thick if I did that. So I cut those bits off and then glued the boiler to that spot that I showed you. Yeah. This shed is coming apart. That's not what we're talking about. Yeah. So then I did the tanks. I wanted to do the tanks as a whole one piece with the tanks, the cab, and the bunker. But it was near impossible. I tried it, trust me. But eventually I'm just like, ugh, okay. We'll just do the tanks and the cab and the bunker separately. Yeah. That's a better camera location. Yeah. So I did that. The tanks, which they are, I believe, they are the same length, which was very difficult to accomplish, getting the same piece to fold in the right ways, but also fit this little dip in the running board he has. Because usually when I do tanks, I take a flat sheet of softer cardboard, like index card, that's what I use, and I cut it down the front so it can bend to have the front part of the tank, and then I fold it to have this part. And then I fold the front, like this part that's going straight up now, I fold it down so it also matches this. And I glue the part from here that went straight up and I folded it. I glue those pieces together to make a solid shape. Yeah. I had to do that twice for this side as well. You haven't seen much of this side of Aurther. I'm just going to keep him in the shed like this. Yeah. So that's what I did for the tanks. The cab. At this time, I only had the cab, or the tanks, this front part here. No funnel, no steam pipes. I'll talk about the steam pipes in a little bit, but so I cut out a normal sheet of cardboard, a small little bit, and I cut it around the boiler to fit around the cab, or the tanks and the boiler. Then I wrapped that in softer cardboard, the index card, and glued it to the footplate. The bunker started out as, initially it was just an extension of the cab, but that didn't work. So I made like a little square, like this bottom part here, that's like solid rectangle. Yeah, that was just its own piece. And then this piece up here, this little smaller version, I glued that. I cut a little strip of cardboard and I glued it to the back of the cab, which I had done previously. Okay, well now, this is thinner than that. As you can see, there's like a slope outward. Like that. Because this is thinner than this. So I put all the necessary pieces to make that conforming in shape. Yeah. And then I had I had a little bit of space, because when I made this big rectangle down here, I put a top on it so it'd be easier to glue these pieces on. So I had space actually in the bunker. There was like a hole to put coal in it. So I bothered, okay, well, let's put real coal in it this time, or as real as I can get, or most size real, I suppose. So I glued it in there. Yeah. Now there's actually coal in this top section here. Yeah, so that was cool. That was fun. Okay, so now we have the basic structure of Aurther built. So I moved on to the firebox, which was very simple. Just a flat piece of cardboard wrapped in softer cardboard to cover up the corrugation and stuff. And of course form the verticalness. Yeah. His dome. I love these kinds of domes, just because they're so much easier to make than the round top dome that like James and Edward have. Because Aurther's dome actually goes flat, or mostly flat on top. So I figured, okay, well, let's just make it a flat dome. So I did. This top feed here, which I did bother to include, I figured out a good way of doing that. I didn't do it with Henry just because the Black Fives wouldn't have had top feeds. But if I wanted to go more accurate, I would have given him a top feed. But yeah, Aurther has one just behind his funnel. Not in the TV series, but I figured it was like an essential enough detail that if they were to include it on Henry, I don't know why they didn't include it on Aurther. But I cut out a sheet of cardboard and then put softer cardboard around the corrugation. And then he also has these little tubes that go like in to the into the tanks. I achieved that using this sort of wire here. It's not even wire, it's more of like a rubbery material here. Yeah. I glued up little bits of that and glued them on here. The funnel is just a normal straw. The front is just little bits of that index card glued on to the front. Yeah. They're not identical, but they're very close. So the steam pipes were really a part I enjoyed about building him, because those were just straws cut at certain angles to fit. And they fit perfectly. Yeah. The cylinders are just little pieces of cardboard, because I didn't want to extend these rods in fear of having it, like, get jammed up here, or, interfere with the running of Aurther. And after I built him, I painted him all red. He's painted in the same red as Murdoch, which, if you haven't seen that, go check him out. Murdoch is one of my coolest customs. Yeah. He's painted in that same cardinal red, and then he's given just gold lining rather than yellow. Yeah. I gave him number 17 on the tanks instead of LMS, just because none of the IVATs wore this sort of livery on them. And I just think Aurther would be the kind of engine to put the number on his tank rather than like his bunker or something. And a lot of engines put it on their bunker, so I figured, okay, well, let's change it up a bit and put it on its tank. Yeah. I gave him black wheels just because I don't like Aurther with red wheels. That's a bad way to put it, but it's true. I gave him little dummy wheels like I did Gordon Henry, just to sort of emphasize that he is a bigger engine. Yeah. And that's really all I have to say for Aurther here. Yeah, there wasn't a whole ton aside from all the shaping. I mean, he is one of the many fully scratch built models, but he was one of the more complicated ones because of all the fanciness he has, like the top feed, the firebox, the awkwardly shaped cab where instead of being round, it's like flat, straight, flat, then down, and then all the fancy bunker he has. Oh, I did try to give him weathering around the bunker. Hopefully, you've been able to see that. Yeah. Yeah, I like Aurther. Aurther's cool. I wasn't sure. I looked at a few images, but I wasn't sure if the iVat 2s actually had this kind of cab. I don't know. I like it though, so it works. That's really all I have to say for Aurther. So I suppose thank you guys for watching, and bye for now.